West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Yesterday at the United Nations, Trump saying Ukraine can take back all of its lost territory. A sudden shift and a big swipe at Russia. We'll talk about that, plus what the United Nations is kind of like. I used to represent persecuted Christians and worked there and went to New York a number of times and even went out to the UNHCR in Geneva. So we'll give you a little bit of insight on that.
I'm super curious about that, because you've got some nuts and bolts experience that not a lot of other people that are talking about
like
this
one
have.
Aspect of it is it was all built in like the 40s and 50s, and nobody wants to spend the money to upgrade it. So it's part of me watched the escalator stop and went, might have just been a busted old escalator, because that thing's not even up to current modern fire code. But no country wants to invest its limited resources in updating it. So
that's great.
It's all kind of old, and it's just a place where diplomats just go out to dinner. I mean, if you could be a UN diplomat, if you can represent your country to the UN. It is just steak dinner after steak dinner after steak dinner. It is not bad at all.
Yeah, and I guess we did do this in You Choose the News a couple of weeks ago. I guess the Trump administration is going through with this. They are going to restrict Iranian diplomats' accesses to the warehouse clubs. No more going to Costco and Sam's Club because they found out they were buying so much bulk stuff and sent it back home. They're like, that's stuff you guys don't allow to be sold there. Maybe we don't allow you to get access here. I just think that's hilarious. Just on a side note, politics aside, I don't care. I think that's funny. I just think at the core of my being, that's funny.
There's so much silliness and stupidness that happens at the United Nations. It was one of those kind of progressive pipe dreams. It's like, if we get everybody in the room together, there'll be less war. And I understand there's an element of like, well, there's conversations that take place at the United Nations, those types of things. But for the most part, almost nothing gets done there. We spend $13 billion, and you just hand Muslim countries that make up 30% of the UN bloc just hours and hours and hours of just time to bash Israel. That's all they do. I remember sitting there in Geneva at the esteemed UN Human Rights Council, and it was 8 hours of some of the grossest anti-Semitism around. So totally useless in my opinion, but we'll give you a little bit of insight. Plus, do you like Trump getting more aggressive on Russia? We'll talk all of that. Now is time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good Wednesday morning, 54, cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 68 today. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
We know that there were 3 fatalities, potentially detainees, not ICE law enforcement at this time, that there have been other injuries, and some individuals are in critical condition.
A shooting at a Dallas ICE facility this morning has left at least 2 detainees dead and 1 injured. The shooter reportedly was found dead on the roof at a nearby building. An ICE spokesperson said no agents were injured.
We've been saying for months that the rhetoric around our law enforcement, particularly ICE, the dehumanization, the demonization, has spun so far out of control, and that someone is going to get hurt or someone's going to get killed.
And that's Homeland Security spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin. And right now they are setting up for the press conference in Dallas, and the guys are going to take it away from me when they begin talking. It's raining right now, and they're covering up the microphones and getting everything set, but we will bring you that live during this newscast, more than likely, or as soon as possible. Multiple students are injured after a stabbing at a Pittsburgh area high school this morning. Authorities say the incident happened at Carrick High School when a student used a small knife to stab 3 students. The victims were taken to the hospital in unknown conditions. The students accused of the student accused of the stabbings has been taken into custody. There was also a deadly shooting in Parker last night near the city's skate park in the area of South 20 Mile Road and East Longs Way around 6:35. A disagreement between people in 2 vehicles led to gunfire. Officers found a man dead near his vehicle when they arrived at the location. Police say a person of interest and the other vehicle involved were located a few hours after the shooting. NATO nations are being encouraged by DJT to shoot down Russian aircraft that enter their airspace. He met with Ukrainian President Zelensky at the United Nations Tuesday, who looked like they were trying to sabotage 47 yesterday morning. Caroline Levitt on Fox News last night.
Well, there was some concerning reporting over the weekend from the London Times, as you pointed out, that UN globalist staffers were basically plotting to set up the President of the United States. And first it was the escalator, then it was the teleprompter, and then Katie Pavlich from Town Hall, who we offered a seat in the press pool to cover the President's historic speech today, noticed that the audio inside of the room was much lower and different for the President of the United States than the previous speaker. So when you put all of this together, it doesn't look like a coincidence to me. And I know that we have people, including the United States Secret Service, who are looking into this to try to get to the bottom of it. And if we find that these were UN staffers who were purposefully trying to literally trip up the President and the First Lady of the United States, well, there better be accountability for those people. And I will.
Jimmy Kimmel back on the air last night, and I actually agree with a lot of the callers, or a few of the callers. Who cares? People watch and listen to Joe Rogan more than him. The best thing he did was give the great Adam Carolla an opportunity, although Andrew Colvette from the Charlie Kirk Show brings up a good point.
Somebody like Jimmy Kimmel says that the shooter of Charlie was MAGA. What he's really saying is that it's okay to lie about conservatives, that their lives don't matter, that his agenda, his political agenda and cultural agenda is more important than the life of my friend who was just taken from us and robbed from us. And you see this with Maggioni, you see this with Charlie Kirk, now you see it with this ICE facility. It's not okay. And when people like Jimmy Kimmel skirt the truth, when they refuse to take accountability for their actions, then that sends a signal that there's a whole institutional machinery apparatus that's prepared to defend these evildoers.
I agree. A Cleveland Guardians player is recovering from a scary injury last night. David Fry got hit in the face with a fastball while squaring a bunt against the Tigers. He needed to be carted off the field and was taken to a nearby Cleveland hospital for further evaluation. Former Bengals star Rudy Johnson is dead at the age of 45. TMZ reporting his death as suicide. He played 8 seasons in the NFL, 7 with the Bengals. The Broncos prepare for Cincinnati. The Bengals on Monday night coming up. Their first day on the field for practice is today. Big games on Saturday, including BYU at CU. It's 50 in Lafayette, 52 in Parker, 54 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
Well, wait a minute. Keep me on script. We're on a script, right?
Yes. You got your script this morning, right, Bernie?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good.
Blake Olson.
Be a little less snarky. I know, you're right. That is a problem that I have. I'm sorry.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your 710 5-day forecast today, a lot quieter over the Denver metro. Mostly sunny skies and highs in the upper 60s. Clear tonight, upper 40s and low 50s. Winds remain light into Thursday morning where the sunshine will continue. Highs tomorrow in the upper 70s, low 80s with lower 80s on Friday. Little cooler on Saturday with a weak frontal boundary, but keeping it dry through much of the weekend. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, dependable service, call 720-851-1691 or visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. Meteorologist Don Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We'll take you live to the press conference outside of the ICE facility in Dallas when that news is live. So you don't need to go anywhere else. You don't need to jump around. We got you covered. We'll go to that if it happens while we're on our program. So that's the one caveat I can guarantee you.
Yeah, only while we're on.
So Trump's at the United Nations yesterday, and I can give you a little bit of insight into the United Nations. I'm by no means a big player of work there, but I represent a great organization. At the time, it was named Open Doors USA, served persecuted Christians around the world, raised their effort, and I was part of their work in Washington, D.C. and New York to raise awareness of what was happening. So I got to see firsthand some of the debates that took place and sat through some of the work at the United Nations. Not a lot is done there. I mean, when I ask people, what do you think the UN does? They kind of go back to, well, the feeding of the Ethiopian kids that were starving, or maybe Somalia, maybe some of the stuff out of Yugoslavia that was taking place in the 90s, but not a lot. I mean, Bill, if I threw that out to you, what is the UN delivering for you?
No, it's largely ineffective and has been for a while. The thing that I've got is I like the idea and the concept, but the execution has gotten so muddled and so out of step from what it should be. There's a huge problem there. And like you outlined, I think they also have a credibility problem. And that is best highlighted by the fact that everybody gets to take a turn being in charge of things. And sometimes when you have countries that have a history of human rights violations, putting them in charge of the Human Rights Commission, not a good look. And so that's the problem, is that while it is built upon the idea that we're going to treat everybody equal, it can't be done that way. And it's the idea being, if we would have set up Congress and just made a rotational pattern of who was in charge of all the different committees, that just because it is a year that ends in 2-5, it means the representatives from Alaska and Arkansas get to be in charge of all the committees, that would be just stupid. Just stupid. But that's what they're doing. The execution is absolutely phenomenally poor.
I think part of it is rooted in the failures of the root philosophical beliefs of globalism, right?
Yeah.
So you get this kind of American notion, and you saw this in Iraq, Afghanistan. If we just bring democracy, if we just create a place where everybody gets together, well, then they're all going to join together, and we're going to have more peace and more trade, and democracy is going to flourish. No. You have giant cultural differences that end up on full display. So one of the best examples of this is, well, let's create an entity like the United Nations, and every country gets one vote. Okay, well, 57 of the countries that make up, the total 193 member states hate the Jews. That's 30%. And so they get together and come up with resolution after resolution after resolution condemning Israel. In fact, since 2015, which was even after my time, and I saw this at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, is 8 hours of Jew bashing. That's all it was. It was just anti-Semitic. 8 hours. You create an entity, the United States funds it to the tune of $13 billion, and what did you do today? We spent 8 hours giving speech after speech, resolution after resolution, bashing Israel and the Jewish people. To the point, I remember sitting there.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, and I watched the representatives from North Korea get up to talk about the human rights abuses of Israel. And I'm sitting there going, the one democracy that you got in the Middle East? And North Korea, which, by the way, because of my work representing persecuted Christians, I knew, I sat through all this testimony of where if the North Korean people found you with a Bible, all right, they drug you out in your little village, put the Bible on the ground, put you next to it, and ran you over with a bulldozer. Those are the types of people that got up and gave a speech condemning Israel for its human rights violations. I mean, it was so ridiculous, all right? And we funded to the tune of $13 billion. And to this point, I just looked this up yesterday, they have done since 2015, the UN General Assembly, 154 resolutions condemning Israel. And the amount on North Korea, 21. And then they couldn't even really put numbers on anything condemning Hamas outside of what happened on October 7th. Congratulations, people. That entity is worthless. Anyways, Trump goes there and gives a speech and talks with Zelensky. And this is one of the headlines out of the Wall Street Journal. Trump saying Ukraine can take back all lost territory. President Trump said for the first time that Ukraine could win back all of its territory and encouraged allies to shoot down Russian aircraft if they entered NATO airspace. An extraordinary shift that raised pressure on Russian President Vladimir Putin, and world leaders gathered Tuesday at the United Nations. After meeting Ukrainian President Zelensky at the UN, Trump in a social media post said Moscow's conduct of the war was aimless. And he had a really good jab in here, by the way. I'm going to get to that in a second. He writes, after getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine-Russia military and economic situation, and after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form. With time, patience, and financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO, the original borders from where this war started is very much an option. Why not? Donald Trump says. Russia has been fighting aimlessly for 3.5 years in a war that should have taken a real military power less than a week to win. This is not distinguishing Russia. In fact, it is very much making them look like a paper tiger. Whoa, Bill Thorpe. Trump's had enough. Think about Alaska, the ride, the flyover, the meeting. Trump's done. What do you think of that?
Took him long enough.
I was wondering if you were going to say about time.
Yeah, really, that's it. Yeah, been talking about this before the election, that his view on what was going on in Ukraine and the ease at which he was going to end it was bupkis, was a total pie-in-the-sky dream. There was no way. And again, there are very few times on this program where I get to say that I was right, but this is one of them. Post-Russia meeting, we had a conversation here on the air, and the question was asked to me about what do I think that Putin is doing this and why did he make this meeting, is that I said he's looking to delay. This has allowed him to delay this entire process. So he's just going to attack. And I said it gave him a window to try to get as much territory as possible before any alleged peace talks. And that's exactly what happened. He increased the fighting, he increased his attacks, and tried to grab more land. And those alleged peace talks that were supposed to bubble up after the meeting in Alaska never happened. Oddly enough, not even a phone call. We came out and said, oh, now he's going to sit down with Zelensky and we're getting close to peace. And no, he was playing you the entire time. That's what he's doing. That's what he's been doing the entire time, because until Vladimir Putin feels like he's losing and has to negotiate an end, he's not going to.
I'm going to interrupt you. We're going to go to the broadcast here live outside of the ICE facility in Dallas. Working on the audio. Stand by.
But maybe even more to the point, we're a country and a city that needs prayer. Join me also in praying for this city, that we can come together at a time like this, and that we can be there for one another the way we always have in times like this, to support one another, help us all get through this very difficult time, not just in our city, but in our country. And that's why I'd ask you to pray for our nation. There's a lot going on right now in our country. A lot of it's confusing. It's a scary time. I've got children. I've got 3 young children.
This is the mayor of Dallas, by the way. Go ahead. Continue.
Challenging to explain to them what's going on in our country right now. But I said before, and I'll say it again, I believe in the power of prayer to change things. And it can change the hearts of people. It can change this country. It can change this city. So please pray for everyone who's affected by today's tragedy. I also want to say thank you to the Dallas Police Department, and say thank you to the Dallas Sheriff's Department, Dallas County Sheriff's Department, Texas Department of Public Safety, and all of our various federal law enforcement partners who acted so quickly today to make sure that today's tragedy wasn't worse than what it was. So on behalf of the city of Dallas, I want to say thank you to all of you. And you're going to hear from some of those folks later, but I wanted to let you know that we appreciate what you all do, not just today, but every day, to help keep us all safe. And lastly, and this is really important, I would ask all of the city of Dallas residents who can hear me right now, let's be patient, let's remain calm, and let's let our law enforcement partners, our police department, do their job. This is an active investigation. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, and I want to encourage all of you to exercise a little bit of restraint and allow them to do their job to help make sure this continues to be a safe city, and that they can help us figure out what happened here today. But with that, I want to say, again, thank you to all the folks who came out this morning from our law enforcement community. I'll turn it over to our police chief, Daniel Como, to speak a little bit more directly to the investigation itself. And with that, Chief Como, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Today at approximately 6:40 a.m., we received a assist the officer call. We responded to the call, got to the scene, and we later learned that we had 4 individuals that were shot, 2 of them deceased, including the shooter. The DPD was able to locate the shooter, who was deceased. We're going to be working this investigation shoulder to shoulder with our federal partners. The FBI is on scene, and right now I'm going to introduce you to the SAC of the Dallas Field Division, FBI Joe Rumrock.
Yeah, good morning. My name's Joe Rothrock. I'm the special agent in charge of the Dallas FBI Field Office. I want to first start by thanking our partners in local law enforcement, specifically the Dallas Police Department, for their quick and timely response. I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas. What I can also share with you is that early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature. Again, this is just the most recent example of this type of attack. This will be a whole of government response. There will be no resource not utilized to bring all those individuals who are responsible to bring them to justice and to hold them accountable. While we're not releasing identities of any victims at this time, what I can confirm for you is no members of law enforcement were hurt during this attack. If any member of the public has information that would help the FBI's investigation, I would ask that you please report that to 1-800-CALL-FBI. Again, any piece of information will be helpful, but this will be an ongoing investigation between us, a number of federal partners, and our local partners, again, to ensure that anyone responsible is held accountable. With that, I will turn it over to my counterpart from the ICE Enforcement and Removal Office.
Good morning. My name is Joshua Johnson. I'm the acting field office director for ICE Dallas. I'll be brief with my comments, but I do want to start off by saying thank you to the Dallas Police Department, Dallas FBI, HSI, CBP, ATF, and virtually every law enforcement officer in North Texas for your support. This is the second time I've had to stand in front of you and talk about a shooter at one of my facilities, and I think that the takeaway from all of this is that the rhetoric has to stop. There are people out there who are seeing what is being placed online, and they're coming and they're doing acts of violence against ICE employees. So that's kind of all I have for today, is that it's just got to stop. It's dangerous, and people are losing their lives. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Again, thank you all so much. As it was said here today, if you do have any information, reach out to 1-800-CALL-FBI. Thank you. Senator Cruz. Thank you.
This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. It was 2 weeks ago today that we saw a political assassination in Utah that tore the heart out of much of this country. This is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has very real consequences. Look, in America, we disagree. That's fine. That's the democratic process. But your political opponents are not Nazis. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other, without attacking each other. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of law enforcement. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of ICE and CBP and everyone who puts their lives on the line to keep us safe. The divisive rhetoric tragically has real consequences. I hope that every one of us will pray, number one, for the safety of law enforcement that are risking their lives to keep us safe. Number two, for the health of those who were shot and injured today. We still don't know the full details of who was injured, but for the families also of the victims of this shooting. Violence has no place. It is wrong. And we should come together. If we want to have a debate about immigration policies, we can do so in the halls of Congress without demonizing each other, and especially without demonizing the men and women who every day put on a badge and go risk their lives to keep us safe. And we should not be putting language out there that inspires madmen to commit evil crimes. Our prayers are with the men and women of law enforcement, and we ought to come together and have some decency across the political aisle to say This violence is wrong, and it needs to stop.
Senator, have you been told that immigrant detainees were the victims of today's shooting?
My understanding is the details of who the victims are still being ascertained, so I don't want to go ahead of law enforcement releasing these details. What they have said is that no law enforcement was injured, and so that's a natural inference, but I don't know the details.
Special Agent, can you talk a little bit about some of the evidence you mentioned earlier? Just for clarity, I think there's going to be a lot of questions. Our understanding is that some of the shell casings had specific writing that was relevant to the vote. Can you give us more information?
So I'm not going to go into any more details at this time. We will come back to you when we have more details to share. Again, our goal here will be transparency as those details become available. But we are still in the early stages of an investigation. Information is still coming in. When we have more details, we will come back to this group. I'm not going to be identifying victims at this time. The only thing I will confirm at this time is no law enforcement was injured. Certainly you can respect law enforcement's need to make notifications. At this point in time, we're not going to take any additional questions from law enforcement. Again, I'd ask for you to respect the fact that this is an ongoing investigation, and as more details come available...
We're not asking for the names of the victims.
I understand.
General sense if the victims are the detainees.
The only thing I can say right now is no law enforcement was injured this morning as part of the attack. I won't be taking any more questions, neither will law enforcement this time. We'll come back to you later today or in the coming days when we have additional information. Thank you for your time.
All right, that's the FBI law enforcement briefing taking place outside of an ICE detention facility in Dallas where 4 people were shot. 2 are dead, including the gunman. And as I said, anti-ICE messages written on some of the bullets found near the perpetrator. And Ted Cruz saying this shooting was directed to ICE and CBP. We'll continue to bring you the latest on this news. I want to tell you real quick about Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. Dan delivering victory. You all see the headlines. $200 million for the family that lost the little girl in that theme park accident. But it's not just this one-off, guys. Dan has been delivering justice for Colorado families for 40 years. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Caplis is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis, a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you've been injured in a motor vehicle crash or your family members have been injured, give Dan a call. Here's the phone number, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS.com. We'll be back. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. You just heard that police briefing outside of the ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. 4 shot, 2 dead. The FBI saying that bullets found near the shooter have anti-ICE messages written on them. Ted Cruz saying the shooting was directed at ICE and CBP. No law enforcement killed, though. Out of the 2 that are dead, one of them is the shooter. And they did not elaborate as to who the other victim is yet. We'll continue to follow all of this. You're going to want to stick with Salem as throughout the day as they'll provide the latest updates on all this. But 4 shot in Dallas outside of an ICE detention facility. One of them dead is the shooter themselves. And messages found seem to be anti-ICE in nature, the FBI saying. Well, Bill, any response? Any thoughts on that?
This is, worrisome. And again, the fact that it seems to be targeting ICE, yet the people shot, not ICE. So a lot of questions there, not questioning intent, just wondering if perhaps the person that decided to take this action wasn't very good at what they were trying to do.
And
that's the idea.
And hit somebody else,
exactly.
Or didn't even know who that else was.
Exactly.
But this whole notion of writing your message on bullets to be left behind so people can see, my goodness, what a terrible thing to do.
It's a really weird
to
thing.
Write. Think about. Just pause as a human being for a second and recognize you're writing messages on bullets. Goodness. Well,
but again, go back to Dr. Zhivago writing messages on missiles. So,
yeah,
I mean,
there you go.
It's been there a while.
Well, joining us live in studio is Peter Boyles. Good morning, Pete.
Morning, guys.
Thanks
Good
for
show.
joining us.
That guy that called you from Leadville.
Yeah, 92.
Yeah, wasn't he strong?
That was a great. And then the one after him. So
92 and living in Leadville, listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. Isn't that great? Pete, what do you got for folks on the weekend?
You know, we're talking about it. And again, it's an example that just happened moments ago, and you and I talked about it, Jeff. We talked about everybody walking around saying violence is not part of the American quilt, that violence has no... Violence is. We have become a violent country. Were you shocked at that, or was that just business as usual when Fox breaks in and shows the shooting? The first thing I really wanted to say when I sat down was, first of all, good show, fellas. Number 2, the MC1 Honor Run, and I know you guys have been doing for it, but the MC1 Honor Run is Sunday, and all these fellows who have men and women, first responders, and so we do that motorcycle event starts at Columbine High School. What I'd like to talk about Saturday, and we've all been talking about it, is your right to say it, the First Amendment, corporate broadcasting, and, you know, like we say, if you print it, I believe it's called libel. If you say it, it's called slander. And there's lawsuits about this all the time. I can give you a list of people that I know very well that were fired off of radio shows. I mean, for saying stuff.
And it's a risk we take every day.
Yep.
Sure, but I told you off air a couple of the guys I know that got fired. And you do not have a divine right to sit behind this microphone. And we serve at the pleasure of the king. And what happened to Jimmy Kimmel, I've never seen the guy's show. We talked about it, but if you go back through time, through history, Richard Nixon hated Dan Rather, did everything he could. Richard Nixon tried to deny licenses for the same family that owned the Washington Post. Jack Kennedy went to the publisher of the New York Times requesting that David Halberstam be reassigned out of Vietnam, that he don't want that young man be happier in Paris. There's always been a conflict between, and Donald Trump's ham-handed. I mean, this stuff that he says, but I don't know. I think there's this idea. You talked about the 400 quote stars and that signed a note And what did that one caller say? I was listening. I said, do you think they give a patootie about your First Amendment right? And the answer is no, but it looks good on paper. Yeah. And everybody's offended. Well, where were you? Who was offended? Now they're all offended at the Front Range. Look at Jack Phillips. Look what happened to Jack Phillips. His rights. He didn't have rights. I mean, we've talked about this before. I'm not a religious guy, but I thought a lot about it. I was the first guy to go to Jack Phillips and talk Brian Taylor into letting us fundraise for this guy because he did have that constitutional right. And it just depends on whose dog. And so
that's exactly right.
But also there's a really interesting sidebar story. We just lost Robert Redford. His daughter was engaged to a guy. She went to CU, and the guy was murdered. And it's a weird story. And the fellow who covered it will come in the studio. But by and large, I think a lot of open lines. We have just so much that's taken place in this country in a very small amount of time. But, when Alan was murdered, I was telling you the kinds of things, the letters and the things that were said following his death. So we get behind these microphones, and Kimmel, and I like what you guys were talking about. We're the Carson show, and I said this: if Kimmel would have had a third of the ratings of Carson, and made a quarter of the income, but it really is about, we have standards and practices. You guys know that. The lawyers were in the boardroom. This wasn't some program director.
And to put a pin on this too, I always like to point out that Access Hollywood knew about the tape about Donald Trump, was on with NBC, and never brought it up.
No.
So long as The Apprentice was the #1 show.
Of course.
So, they're making decisions based upon ratings. This idea that there's somehow these great principled organizations, they're going to stand for free speech, or we're going to out the celebrity that made the inappropriate comments. No. So long as that money's coming in, they'll still quit.
Now, and Pete, you and I have been in this business long enough that we know of individuals who have had atrocious personal behavior behind the scenes and in the realm of coworkers and when in the office. And they were given a pass because of, do you know how much they're billing? Yeah, that was always the answer when he complained about it.
The great moment, one of my favorite movies is Network.
Yes.
And William Holden is playing an Edward R. Murrow character. Ned Beatty's playing an exec. And the guy that's in there going, I'm as mad as hell, and he's in a raincoat, and William Holden says to Beatty, he said, he's crazy. And Beatty says, he's got a 28 share. And Billy's absolutely right. I mean, I've worked with some of the most decent human beings I've ever known in my life. But if the stories were told about, but you looked at ratings and revenue.
Yeah, that's right.
Carson got in a lot of trouble, but only afterward when the books were written.
Yeah,
about stuff he had done.
Well, Pete's show this Saturday, 9 to 1, 710 KNUS. It's always great listening, very compelling. You're not going to want to miss it. Thank you for being in the studio today.
Thank you.
Good show.
We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. FBI Director Kash Patel just posting on his X account this morning, just before 7 a.m. local time, an individual fired multiple rounds at a Dallas, Texas ICE facility, killing one, wounding several others before taking his own life. FBI, DHS, ATF are on the ground with Dallas PD and state authorities. While the investigation is ongoing, an initial review of the evidence shows an ideological move behind this attack. And then he posts a picture of bullets with anti-ICE written on them. One of the unspent shell casings recovered was engraved with the phrase anti-ICE. We'll continue to give you the updates on Salem. Don't leave. 710 KNUS. Billy and I will be back tomorrow. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader. We are News Talk 710 KNUS.